As a huge fan of gory and murderous first-person shooters, I've been eyeing this Trepang2 game for a while. Before buying the game, I didn't watch the trailers but only tried the demo out, and I recommend you guys to do the same. This demo is essentially the first level of the game. You're playing as Agent 106, a mysterious man who finds himself handcuffed and strapped to a chair in front of a TV screen. Suddenly, a man from behind shoots at your head but intentionally misses the shot. You proceed to break free from your handcuffs out of sheer strength and attempt to run for your life. Who is this man, why did he have to execute you, and why he spared you are the first questions that arise. The plot of this game takes some inspiration from F.E.A.R, since Agent 106 is a special and formidable soldier just like Point Man. The only difference between the two is that Point Man was born out of the supernatural womb of Alma Wade, while Agent 106 is the byproduct of an experiment obviously gone wrong conducted by the evil Horizon Corporation. Point Man 2 was trained and was bioenhanced by another evil corporation, Armachan. One interesting similarity is that they both don't have a normal name and surname. This is because both corporations want to dehumanize the person, and they accomplish so by also erasing their memories, in order to turn these soldiers into remorseless war machines. Both also possess the ability to manipulate time, but only Agent 106 can turn himself invisible. The 106 number suggests that there might have been an Agent 105 before you, and indeed there was one. In fact, your protagonist is just a part of one big cycle of cloned super soldiers exploited by the Horizon Corporation as a mean to execute their evil goals. Once a goal is achieved, the agent has to terminate himself or be terminated because he might have acquired a bit of conscience after fighting various missions, and this could turn him into a liability. It's more convenient to kill him and create a fresh new clone with no memories and only implement selected memories that are useful to the corporation. The plot of Trepang2 is quite good for an indie game, and to delve deep into it, you need to retrieve intel scattered around levels. However, this plot is also all over the place, just like these intel pieces. What threw me off the most was the appearance of zombie-like monsters and of the Mothman in the second mission of the game. Sure, they are a result of an experiment gone wrong, but I don't think they fit the tone of bioenhanced super soldiers in war against evil corporations. The Flesh Golem 2 feels very out of place, just like the other monsters. They all look too organic for the cold and sterile vibe inside the Pandora Institute. And these type of locations really give heavy F.E.A.R vibes. And I gotta admit that the devs really nailed the artistic direction when it comes to creating office-like spaces, basements, hangars, headquarter areas, and even oil rigs. However, we certainly didn't buy Trepang2 for its plot, rather for its gameplay, and the whole game does quite a good job at selling you its finest feature, the combat, which will get you hooked for the whole game. The combat is first of all good because the weapons have quite a punch to them. In fact, the gunfire sounds as beefy as you would like it to be, and your gunfire will also have quite an impact on the enemies. You can in fact effortlessly give them into clouds of blood with a well-placed buckshot, just like it happens in F.E.A.R, or make their heads implode with blood gurgling out of the hop's throat. And yeah, the gore system in Trepang2 is very splatterish. Hitting the enemy on the stomach enough times will make their digestive organs pop out from their guts, and the same organs can in turn be reduced in smaller chunks of meats and splatters of blood if you hit it enough times. You can cut off limbs too, but in my opinion the coolest part is impaling enemies on a wall with the bolt launcher, just like you could do with the penetrator in F.E.A.R. And if you're a fan of Source games, the enemies will ragdoll around quite a bit, and it's always cool to see enemies flying around due to a grenade explosion. At times these ragdolls can be a bit clunky though. The release of the Blade Kisser DLC, which lets the player slice foes with a katana, is a godsend because it really makes use of the very good gore system. Slicing through Kevlar armor had never been so easy. Sure, the gores are not like Ready or Not or Dead Island 2, but it does the job pretty well. Also, enemies flinch and scream every time you shoot them, which is a good feedback for gameplay. As you might already know, Agent 106 possesses the abilities to slow down time and to turn invisible. This creates a very fun gameplay loop where you will be popping out of your cloak to surprise your enemies with a buckshot in the face, and then overpower the rest with the bullet time. Combine these two abilities with a quite fast sprinting speed and an even faster slide move, and Trepang2 will play out like a frenetic retro shooter. In fact, if you came to Trepang2 expecting a boots to the ground experience as the likes of Call of Duty or even Counter-Strike, you will probably be disappointed because Trepang2 is not about hiding and peeking out of cover or camping an area waiting for enemies to show up. It plays nothing like F.E.A.R 2. In F.E.A.R, you move in fact a lot slower, there are less enemies attacking you, and every hostile encounter is approached in a more methodical way. In Trepang2 instead, going gun blazing while running around the map to pick up ammos and armor shards dropped by the enemies is the way the game is supposed to be played. Some people have complained about the 2-slot weapon limitation, since in F.E.A.R you could at least hold 3, but I think that this restriction was intentionally made from the devs so that the player has to constantly run around looking for ammos or a new weapon. Compared to F.E.A.R, death is never really a result of the replica's AI outsmarting you and outmaneuvering you, but mostly a result of playing too recklessly, which will often earn you a nice shotgun blast to the face. The AI in Trepang2 can't compare to the timeless F.E.A.R AI. Nonetheless, it is a serviceable AI, and we also gotta take into account the fact that it could be hard for the AI to keep track of Agent 106 because it moves way faster than Pointman, and he also can turn himself invisible. Another common criticism is the fact that in Trepang2 there is no iron sight, except if you are aiming down a scope. I believe that, just like the 2 weapon slots limit, the devs didn't include an iron sight feature to keep the game fast-paced. However, the devs have included the ADS mode cheat, thanks to which you can ADS even without a scope, and your hipfire accuracy is greatly reduced. Now your Trepang2 game will feel exactly like Call of Duty, but it will become a lot harder. Oh, and also throughout the campaign you will come across a dual-wield serum, thanks to which our Agent 106 can dual-wield weapons, and quoting Serious Sam, double the gun, double the fun. Dual-wielding this Pass 12 is just an amazing power fantasy experience, and the reloading animation is very well made as well. The devs have really put the effort into creating cool-looking animations and very detailed weapon models, and the result is very convincing and pleasant to look at. Your arsenal is basic but effective. After completing a mission, the game unlocks a new gun, and by the end of the campaign you will be able to choose between a pistol, an SMG, a shotgun, a DMR, a minigun, a grenade launcher and a bolt launcher. All these guns are very fun to use, and they all serve a different purpose. Some players argued that in a game where so much focus is put on the guns, only 7 weapons to choose from is a bit restrictive, which it is, but thanks to the implementation of the Blade Kisser DLC, we now have 3 extra weapons to choose from. A sword, which makes Trepang2 play like Dying Light, a revolver that can be dual-wielded and you can imagine how badass it is, and a machine gun that covers the gap between the A.R. and the minigun. If the base weapons were uninteresting, the grenades instead are very interesting. You have your standard grenade, the incendiary ones, but then you can also choose from more creative options, such as the rat bomb, the thruster grenade, and the gas grenade, and the vortex grenade. I feel like it's nice to have more inventive options to choose from, given that the main weapons are very standard and grounded in reality. All of this firepower will serve Agent 106 and the player in completing the campaign, which is divided in 5 main storyline missions, or 7 if you own the Blade Kisser DLC, while the side missions are 6. Some of these side missions feel a bit generic. As an example, in the Oil Rig mission, Dragon Data Center and Gunnarsson Complex, you are basically playing on Horde mode with a timer. Enemies spawn in waves, and you gotta protect an objective which usually involves a computer downloading or uploading data. Very generic premise. Side missions like Kellington Colliery or Crash Side instead are more like a survival mode, with enemies spawning in waves, but your only objective is to kill them all to survive. This premise too is not too inventive, but thanks to Trepang2 great combat, you will still be glad to partake in some killing. The coolest thing about these side missions are the interaction with your squadmates and enemies. The latter will usually curse at you for having killed all their soldiers.
Everyone's fucking dead. Hunter! What the fuck are you doing? Kill him already! Commencing airstrike. Locked on.
While your squadmates instead will cherish every time you slay a bunch of waves, or will aid you with supply drops or some pieces of intel. The most beloved dialogue piece by the Trepang2 community is probably the ending of the Crash Site mission, with your friends calling you their favorite psychopath.
How the hell are you still alive? Who's my favorite little psychopath? That's right, you are!
These dialogues really go a long way in building some character in a game that otherwise might feel empty of personality. The face of your squadmates and enemies popping up at the top sides of the screen help even more in reinforcing the personality of this game and of the characters. By the end of the game, you will certainly have grown affectionate to your squadmates. Regarding level design or atmosphere, these side missions have little to offer since they're pretty much small arenas to fight foes in. However, there is one side mission that manages to do a great job in uniting Trepang2 horror mood with its gory gameplay. In my opinion, Unidentified Structure is the best secondary mission of the game. There is some exploration to do in a spooky and abandoned house, and this will lead us to an even creepier basement completely filled with computer servers. And god, Trepang2 just loves rooms filled with crunching computers. The atmosphere here is tense as hell, although the fire spirits you have to fight look a bit generic. After this, the scary part ends and it's time to fight a bunch of waves of Horizon soldiers who tracked you down. The cool part about this fight is the option to fight long range in the exterior area or wait for the enemies to come inside the house to get up close and personal with them. According to a Reddit poll, Unidentified Structure seems to be the second best favorite side mission in the game, right after Crash Site, although I'm sure people chose Crash Site because of the dialogue with your mates. But what about the storyline missions and their level design compared to F.E.A.R? Well, main missions have a very linear structure to them. You will hardly feel lost in these maps, cause it's pretty much a straight line and there is little to no room for exploration. The only collectibles present are weapon parts, intel and drones, but you will usually encounter all of them along your path. So if you hate exploring and getting lost in FPS games, Trepang2 is for you. F.E.A.R level design instead, although linear, presents more branching paths and more intricate corridors with more angles, windows and objects to take cover behind, and the odd button to press. Personally, I find F.E.A.R levels and level design more interesting and rewarding to explore than Trepang. The latter feels like it's too much structured in a corridor followed by an open area where waves of enemies will rush at you, and the cycle continues until a mini-boss or final boss appears. I do appreciate the inclusion of boss fights at the end of every main level, and by the way, boss fights are a concept unseen in F.E.A.R 1. Some of these fights can really get your blood pumping, especially if you're playing on very hard or extreme. Here, these battles will feel like a Dark Soul fight, with you sweating until the very end, praying that your opponent will show mercy and that you won't commit a mistake. The newly introduced boss battle against the submarine in the Omega Facility mission was really putting my patience under stress, but that was also because during the third and fourth phase, the explosive missiles are hard to see because the green light coming from the pods with enemies inside meshes with the red lights and you cannot see anything. This is a shame, cause well, gunning down a submarine with an assault rifle is not an experience that many games offers. Among every bosses, the worst offender in my opinion is Subject 83 in the Site 83 mission. Why is it so bad? Well, because destroying a freaking pillar isn't fun, because a pillar can't fight back, and in fact you will be fighting the same common soldiers until you gain access to 3 levers that activate an energy cannon that will in turn destroy Subject 83, aka the mysterious pillar. I hate defeating bosses in such indirect ways, it never feels like a proper boss fight. Now, this Site 83 mission is a weird one. It constitutes Trepang2 attempt in building an actual horror atmosphere as the likes of F.E.A.R. But yeah, I hated this mission and in my opinion, it's the worst in the game. The atmosphere is indeed creepy, cause this facility is set in a snowy landscape, everything looks cold and metallic, there are a lot of corpses laying around, and you can find creepy writings made of blood on the walls. It also includes a jump scare and other jump scares every time you fail. In fact, at a certain point of the level, you have to avoid this strange but very generic black cloud, or else a goofy face will appear on your screen and slash your HPs in half. So you need to be silent and stealthy around it, or else the spirit will catch you. From running, gunning and sprinting around, you are now forced to slowly walk or crawl around uninteresting straight corridors. Every time I met a squad of enemies it was a big relief, cause good god the horror section were boring. There is a cool section located in a liminal-like area, which is probably the highlight of this level, although the novelty wears off quite quick. So yeah, Site 83, decent atmosphere, but overall bad gameplay and bad boss fight. The biggest complaint about Trepang2 campaign was its short duration. Prior to the Blade Kisser DLC, this storyline only comprised 5 missions, which is 4 hours of gameplay. As I've already said, with the new DLC, 2 main missions are added, and these missions are pretty good and entertaining, and I really recommend getting this DLC to get the full Trepang2 story, which is not even that bad, and it's very engaging. So yeah guys, this was my Trepang2 review. I initially was very skeptical about this game, especially because I was playing on very hard and in some missions it was getting a bit frustrating. So if you're finding yourself frustrated, I recommend to lower the difficulty and enjoy the game, since there is always time to play on harder modes. And the rage mod is particularly insane. So guys, if you like the video, like and subscribe.